Welcome to Coming Out of the Spiritual Closet with your host, me, Brittany Wittig. Join me every week to explore and demystify the world of modern spirituality. In 2012, I experienced my worst nightmare when my mom passed away from cancer. The experience of living my worst fear was nothing like I would have expected, though. It actually inspired me to reprioritize my life, to live big. And as I saw my life begin to improve, I became obsessed with the power of fear to create positive change in our lives. I spent the last 10 years learning everything I could about fear and courage, and I tested everything I learned in my own life. I quit my 9-to-5 to travel the world full time. I built a profitable travel blog, even though I had no previous writing or website experience. I started an online coaching business that allows me to work when and where I choose. And it all came full circle in 2021 when I was diagnosed with cancer. I was once again faced with living my worst fear. But this time, I used the courageous tools and processes I'd spent the last decade developing to intuitively move through my treatment and my cancer journey. In 2022, I was declared cancer-free. I came out of my cancer journey happier, healthier, and thriving more than ever before. And that is when the Courageous Transformation Academy was born. I knew I had to share these powerful tools with as many people as possible. The Courageous Transformation Academy is a 10-module course and coaching program for ambitious dreamers who want to finally begin living their dreams without having to think positive or deny their body's innate intelligence. Imagine what it would feel like to actually live the future you can't stop thinking about, to wake up every morning in love with your life. This is possible for you. Discover how to cultivate courage so you can take empowered, inspired action. Learn to hear the voice of your intuition so you can follow it to that life you're dreaming of. And discover how your subconscious mind and nervous system work together so you can choose the way that you experience reality. Take the first courageous step today in the show notes. This week, I'm introducing you to holistic wellness coach Carrie Bohlmann. And this episode is such a full circle moment for me because Carrie was one of the founding members of my signature program, the Courageous Transformation Academy. Carrie's approach to coaching is so supportive, and her journey to becoming a coach is so fascinating. I can't wait to introduce you to her. So today, Carrie shares about her unique approach to holistic wellness coaching, and she shares about her life-changing experience going through the Courageous Transformation Academy. So without further ado, here's Carrie. All right, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us this week. And Carrie, I am so happy to have you on the podcast. I've been thinking about this for a while, so it's really awesome that you're here. Could you start by just introducing yourself and just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here with having this opportunity. So thank you. I'm Carrie Bohlmann, and I'm a holistic wellness coach. I live in Wisconsin, where I'm originally from, with my husband, our son, and our Shepherd Husky mix. As a coach, I love working with women who are ready to thrive holistically for as long as possible. So longevity is important in what I do. I work one-on-one with people to help them figure out their big goals and come up with an action plan. And then I offer them accountability check-ins to increase the likelihood that they're going to actually get to where they want to go. And then I also offer a virtual accountability community. That kind of came first. I've been doing that for a couple of years, where members can check in daily to share kind of what they're working on, whether it be getting a workout in or eating better. So we all kind of use the same app. It's called Body, which has all different kinds of exercise like meditation and nutritional support, but I love the different types of exercise it offers because everyone's so different when it comes to how they like to move and how they enjoy moving. And then we use it to kind of cheer each other on and hold each other accountable. And sometimes we'll have fun challenges in there, which helps increase consistency. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
Awesome. I love that. And I love the holistic approach. I feel like this is one of the things that we totally see eye to eye on. You have a really interesting background. Could you share a little bit about your background and like what led you to this work? I think your background is so cool.
So I have a 30-year career background in the dance industry. I trained since I was 5 years old and
wow,
got my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in dance around, in my 20s, early 20s. And then around that time, I was also a certified group fitness instructor and a personal trainer, all the while teaching and choreographing. And the styles I specialized in was ballet, modern, jazz, and tap dance, and for various schools and studios, both in the Wisconsin area where I'm from, just outside of Milwaukee, and then also in the Chicago area. And then I co-own a performing arts school in the Chicagoland area with my 2 younger sisters for 17 of those years.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a lot.
That's amazing.
There's a long career there. That chapter is closed as of 2020 for various reasons. I'm sure you can imagine one of them. However, prior to that, around 2012, I started feeling the effects of my aging dancer body. And I started developing arthritis in my feet. I was about mid-30s and pregnant with our son at the time. So I knew I needed to do better in supporting my health. And, in addition to the wear and tear that dance can put on the body, I knew I could do better with my nutrition, and I didn't really know where to start at the time. So I enlisted a wellness coach for myself for the first time, and she really opened my eyes to the whole holistic wellness world, especially regarding nutrition. And I kind of fell in love with the idea of holistic health around that time and all the different ways there are to heal and prevent illness and disease, and how all the puzzle pieces are connected. I just grew such a passion for it. So I decided to get certified through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. And I figured I could teach the dancers about holistic wellness, particularly around nutrition, stress, and body image, which were really big issues that they needed help with at the time. So meaningful work is definitely one of my top 5 values. And I felt like I needed to be living that value. So it felt like the right direction to go in at the time. So as I progressed in coaching the dancers with their wellness, paired with my own wellness journey, I just fell more and more in love with the idea of being able to help people on such a meaningful level with their health. So along for my passion for movement, being a dancer, I have since found a love for nutrition science, and I'm now updating my credentials through a school called Precision Nutrition, which is a super amazing coaching program that does a deep dive into nutrition, but also has a holistic approach, and also teaches a client-based method to coaching, which means the client is totally in charge and I'm just helping navigate. So it's very different to what I was doing with the dancers. I don't get to order them around like I did. It's very different. So
yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
First of all, I love the client-based coaching approach. That's so cool. Because
yeah, you definitely do that.
Yeah, I feel like I love that. I love like you're in charge and I'm just kind of guiding you. That's super. Yeah, I feel like that's super powerful. And gosh, what a journey. Like, I love what you mentioned about body image, like helping with body image along with the nutrition and everything else. That feels like such an important piece when you're dealing with nutrition, right?
Mm-hmm. And
'Cause
also
like,
dancers. And
yeah.
we have mirrors all around us, and we're looking in the mirror all the time, and then we're comparing ourselves, and it's tricky with dancers. So it was definitely necessary.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. I never even thought about that. I mean, I'm very much not a dancer. So yeah, but of course you're right. You'd have mirrors everywhere. And then I feel like when people are working with their nutrition, it's so important that they're also, I don't want to say doing it for the right reasons, but also like healing their relationship with themselves so that, yeah, so that the approach is like wellness, not necessarily just weight loss, right?
Right, right.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. That's so great. You said something recently as we were talking that I really, really found fascinating. We were talking and you mentioned an anti all or nothing approach.
Yes.
And I was like, my ears perked right up. I was like, whoa, whoa, an anti all or nothing. I just love that phrase in general. But I just love that approach. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So many people, I think, have the idea that in order to change something about ourselves, we have to go all in, which is just never sustainable. If you go all in, you can, but you can't really do it for very long. It's very, limited as far as how long you can do it. And then what? Right.
Right.
Then you're kind of back to square one. And so like if people want to lose weight, they go all in for a month and then they lose the weight. And then what? Then they gain it all back because they didn't really change the habits, the daily habits. I believe in that something is better than nothing. So for instance, one of my group accountability members was following an exercise program, or she wanted to jump into an exercise program that was 6 days a week, 30 minutes a day, which to some might not feel like a lot, but for someone that wasn't working out at all, that was a lot. And I was like, are you sure? So I had to kind of push back on it. And she was determined. She said, I have to do it. I want to do it. And I was like, okay, just know that it's okay if you don't do it forever. She was used to not exercising at all, like I mentioned. And I usually don't let them start all in, but she was determined and I knew what to expect. So when I checked in with her after the first week, and she was so disappointed in herself because she only managed to get 3 workouts in the first week. And I was like, what? That's awesome. Like, let's celebrate that. What were you doing the week before? And she said, nothing. And I said, okay, well, let's celebrate that.
Yes.
3 days is to be celebrated when you did none the week before, right?
Yes.
So a lot of people just give up too soon because they realize they can't sustain, the all in long term. So the opposite of all in is growth mindset. And I find myself wanting to work with my group accountability members, but it's a kind of a low touch community where I just check in here and there. Whereas the one-on-one, I'll be able to kind of dive in and work on that growth mindset up front. And then they can really start making progress. Like you have to think of it as like a continuum. So 0 being nothing, 10 being all in, and like, where are you? Where are you on that scale right now? Start where you are and then get a little better. Right. And only do what you're at least 90% confident you can do every day long term. That's kind of the approach I take.
Ooh, I like that. That's so sustainable.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I also just love that reframe of like, celebrate that win of like working out 3 times. If you haven't been working out at all, that's amazing.
Working out 1 time, like,
yeah, right. That's improvement.
Celebrate all of those milestones. So
yes. Oh, yes. I love it. That's awesome. I also want to ask you if someone is listening and they have like a big goal that they want to accomplish, how can you help them with that?
Well, the answer to that is always, it depends.
Sure.
It depends on where they are currently and where they want to go. And then also how much time they have if they have like a big short-term goal, yes, I can help with that. However, the methods we use to achieve those types of short-term goals are usually not sustainable, like we were just talking about. So for instance, if there's someone who comes to me and has an event coming up next month and wants to lose a bunch of weight, I can help them. We could do a low-carb diet with a rigorous exercise program, which it's just not gonna, I don't believe in doing that long term.
Sure.
So I'm mostly interested in working, with people who have bigger outcome goals and visions with like a longer time horizon,
Sure.
like 1 year from now. So for instance, if someone came to me and we discover their outcome goal, and I have a whole discovery process that I use through visualization and figuring out what the values are, and say we come up with, I want to feel confident in my skin and my clothes so that I can show up in the world as my authentic self. And we always try to figure out why they want to lose that weight, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So first we visualize, and then we fine tune that vision into outcome goals. And then we dig even deeper to get more specific. And I help them basically reverse engineer that big goal down into easy daily actions that they're going to need to practice in order to build the skills they're going to need to get there. Because oftentimes, we want our lives to look a certain way, but we don't have the skills yet to get there.
Right.
And so when I say skills, I mean habits, basically, AKA actions practiced consistently over time. So I'll inform my clients, what the research shows, and I'm huge on research-based methods. And then I offer them a menu of options to choose from, unless they come up with it on their own, because a lot of times they know what to do. They're just not doing it. They don't know how to get to the action, to like getting moving,
Sure. Yeah.
So then it's up to me to kind of unpack the reason for that. And change is tricky.
Oh yeah.
Change is tricky, especially for adults.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be some sort of ambivalence or resistance around change. And I think that's just how we're wired. But I've got all kinds of tricks to help them through that. And if I get really stuck, then, I would just send them over to you.
There we go.
But then I offer them accountability check-in appointments as well, which research says increases the probability of them reaching their goal by 95%. And then sometimes, I know, right? Why wouldn't you want to give yourself that chance? Yeah. And then when somebody has a seemingly obvious behavior path, like improved nutrition and exercise, for instance, there's usually other obstacles that need to be addressed, like time management and stress or sleep, or change in general, which is just, it's so tricky.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It is. Our egos resist change like crazy.
Yes. Yes, they do. Yes, it does.
I love that your entire approach just feels like so sustainable long term. It's like making real permanent shifts. Awesome. I bet someone right now is listening and thinking, that sounds pretty good.
I hope
love
so.
it. So Carrie was one of the founding members of my group coaching program, the Courageous Transformation Academy. And I would love to talk with you a little bit about that, if you're open to answering a few questions about your experience.
Of course. Like, I want to shout it from the rooftops how awesome it was.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just start. I would love to know what drew you to join the Courageous Transformation Academy.
Okay. After closing our school, I realized how burned out I was from running a performing arts school for 17 years. And don't get me wrong, I loved every second of it, but it was really, really hard, especially after we had our son. But there's a huge sense of relief, but also loss and for the school, but also my connection with dance as I knew it. You know, dance is my passion. And when you have a passion, it's like part of your soul.
Yeah.
So my body was aging and slowing down. And I couldn't move the way I used to, which was frustrating. Plus, I had to have surgery on my foot to remove some arthritis.
Oh, wow.
And there was a long recovery period. So I decided that would be my exit point from that career. And I retired from my dance career. And then after that, I really just needed time, a couple years at least, to grieve, but also to relax and kind of get back to myself and being present for my family, which at times I felt like I couldn't be when I was running the studio. And I was able to get back to some of my hobbies like reading and birding and new skills I finally had time to learn during the pandemic lockdown, especially. Like I took up gardening and got certified in EFT. So those were my pandemic projects. But I joined an amazing virtual wellness accountability community where I had access to that app I was talking about. That with, lots of variety of movement that was safe for me at my stage, at my life stage. And then when I began to do group accountability coaching for that community, that felt right. But then it was just necessary. It was so necessary to take that time.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for every second of it. I really enjoyed getting back to those things. But also, I've been big into visualization and started making vision boards each year for a few years now. And around December 2021, I was making my vision board for 2022, and I started feeling restless. And I knew I was ready to start venturing into the coaching world. That I knew that was next for me. So I started the process of visualizing how that could look, but somehow I hit a big rut and I got really stuck. I did put coaching on my vision board, and even the skills I knew I would need, like courage,
Yes,
to get there. But summer rolled around and there I was halfway through the year, and I couldn't get myself to move forward because I had that vision of having the courage to move forward. It wasn't there. It just wasn't there. I was stuck and it had a lot of intense fear around moving forward. And I have learned since that we're more likely to run away from the possibility of risk, when there's a loss, than the possibility of a positive outcome. So that's clearly what I was doing.
Sure.
But meanwhile, I'd been watching you on Instagram for a while, and we were totally in each other's algorithms.
Yes.
And sure. I knew I liked you, but I didn't really know you yet. However, I was totally drawn into your energy and I was interested. And I remember seeing you doing conscious crying in one of your posts. And I was like, wow, I was so taken aback, in a great way. It was so refreshing and vulnerable. And I wanted to know more about what you were up to, honestly. So I really started paying attention to your stories and posts. And then when you launched CTA, you had a free was it a webinar or webcast?
Oh yeah, that masterclass. Yep.
What was it called? How to
leap without frying your nervous system.
Yes.
Yep.
I so needed that leap. And I was like, yes, that's perfect. I'm doing it. And it was like an hour long. And I literally, I found myself toward the end of it, joyously crying and almost shaking by the end of I felt so lucky to have said yes to this free webinar. And I mean, the amount of value you packed into that 1 hour was what? It was crazy. It was so good. And I was like, how do I work with her? But the real kicker for me was when you mentioned something called the wobble effect.
Yes.
And that was something I did not know how to navigate. And I had experienced, I knew sort of what it was, but I didn't know how to get through it. So when you brought up Courageous Transformation Academy as a way to learn the skills to navigate the wobble and the fear, I was like, whoa, like my vision board is working for me. And I knew it was meant for me, like sign me up right now. Like I think I literally signed up that night.
Yeah, you did, I think, because you messaged me.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
so
I'm
awesome.
so glad I did. I'm so glad I did. I mean, the whole 3-month experience was really like a huge synchronicity for me, like, or maybe a series of them, but definitely one of my favorite life experiences.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. That means so much to me because I absolutely love the program. I loved creating it. And that was the goal. That was the goal. I wanted it to be a really powerful transformational experience for people. And for anyone who just listened about the masterclass, that masterclass is still available, How to Leap Without Frying Your Nervous System. So I will stick the link to it in the show notes if you would like to check that out and do that masterclass. It packs a punch. It's pretty great. I agree.
So good. Everyone needs it.
So when you started the program, when you started the Courageous Transformation Academy, was there a point in the program where you realized that things were shifting for you? Was there like something that stood out where you were like, oh, okay, things are changing, or anything like that?
Just like every second.
Oh
No, I mean, I went into it like a beginner. I mean, the spiritual, energetic side of holistic health is probably my weak point. Like I don't have as much experience with it. But I think it was when we started working with signs.
Oh, right. Okay.
I had some pretty clear messages coming to me through that sign work, and also just learning and trusting the tarot was part of that shift for me too. But trusting the signs the universe was bringing me and starting to work with my intuition was life-changing, I think, because I never could recognize it when it was always happening, but I was not recognizing the tiny voice, right?
Yeah, yep, totally, that little voice.
And the coaching and the energy work was really powerful for me. And you were always so supportive through the whole thing. Like I never felt like there was a wrong way to do it. It was like, however you go through it is meant for you, and everybody's going to go through it differently.
Right.
But you have such an awesome way of explaining spirituality and all the elements you cover in your program, so it doesn't it doesn't seem too out there. You know what I mean? Like too woo. You know what I mean?
I love that. I appreciate that because I try and keep my spirituality very grounded. And the way that I teach it, I like to try and keep it very grounded in the human reality experience.
Yeah. And I think that's because you bring science into it.
Yeah.
And I should probably mention though that I was not a skeptic
Sure.
going in, which probably helped. Like I've had other spiritual awakenings in my past, but they were more external and less intrinsic, I guess.
Oh, interesting.
Like my spirituality became more intrinsic and like part of my lifestyle. Like I started practicing it more, even though like I had a meditation practice before CTA, but there were more elements that I was able to bring into my lifestyle. So there were lots of shifts.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh, I love that. So early on, one of the early modules, we dig into bringing spirituality into your everyday, communicating with the universe through signs, through cards. Like we talk about all of that because I think that injects immediately so much more courage into the everyday experience. So that's kind of one of the foundational early pieces of the program, so that then you can use that throughout the rest of the program as we do more advanced work. I love that worked for you and that you were able to bring it into your everyday like that.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what you just said,
Mhm.
about the universe and intuition and that bringing courage, and I'll
Mhm.
always have your voice in the back of my head saying your intuition will never steer you wrong. And
Right.
that was like a very new concept for me, whereas before I was like, that's just, what is that voice?
Right.
I'm not going to follow that crazy voice.
Right. Totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure. Because sometimes what it suggests is like, it's not what your ego wants.
Right, exactly.
And we do in the program do a lot of work discerning the difference between ego and intuition. So
hmm
that's something everyone will learn as well. So what has shifted for you since going through the program?
Okay, so now I'm much better able to recognize that tiny voice of my
Mm,
intuition guiding me. It's still tricky to,
sure.
like you said, discern it from the ego.
Yeah.
However, when I'm presented with like an opportunity that scares me a little, like cold plunging, which I've done since graduating from the CTA,
Yes.
or guesting on podcasts, which this is
Yes.
my first one. I've been asked to guest on podcasts before, and I've always said no, just because I thought it was terrifying, but
Mm,
I don't see it as terrifying anymore. It's more like an opportunity that scares me a little.
yeah.
And that is a sign that I think it's okay to go forward. And I can hear my intuition giving me permission to be a little scared and go into
Yes.
new situations.
Oh, yes.
So,
I love that so much. Yes, that's that courage.
but also, like, of course, I finally launched my one on one coaching business, which was a big goal. And of course, has felt wobbly at
Oh,
times,
yeah.
but I've learned so many great tools through your program to work through that wobble.
Yep, that wobble effect. It's a thing. And we learn about that in the program, folks, because it is real. Fantastic. This is great. Thank you so much for being willing to talk about the program and your experience. I feel like that's the best way to just share with people what we do and the kind of transformation that can come out of it. It's just sharing direct experience.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm super happy that we've got your coaching business is going and you're doing the one-on-one, and it's awesome. I'm sure that someone listening probably is wondering how to get in touch with you and how to work with you. So what is the best way for someone to get in touch with you?
So you can currently find me on Instagram at the Carrie Bohlmann, TheCarrie two N's. Or my website will soon be launched.
Ooh.
It's just about ready.
And I'm writing these down, and these are going to be in the show notes. So you can just pop down, and there will be links to both of those in the show notes. Carrie, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited to see your coaching business blooming.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I just wanted to add that the doors for the Courageous Transformation Academy are opening this week, and they are going to be open forevermore because I am making the program evergreen, which means that enrollment will always be open. If you enjoyed this interview and you would like to join the Courageous Transformation Academy, you can get a special discount. Use the code Carrie, CARRIE 10 at checkout to receive 10% off of the program. I'm going to put that code in the show notes, and I hope to see you in the Courageous Transformation Academy.